The climate crisis is one of the biggest challenges facing humanity. Climate change is causing more extreme weather, is causing some places to become uninhabitable, and those effects are going to become more apparent and more extreme over the coming decades. The climate crisis is caused by human activity, which leads to the emissions of greenhouse gases, which trap heat in the Earth's atmosphere. And so while we think that we might be detached from it, there's not much we can do about it, actually the actions that we take, the decisions that we make, affect the emissions that are driving climate change and the impacts that result from that. In the session, what I try to do is bring people up to understand the basics of climate change, what are the drivers, and therefore what can be done to mitigate. If we just think about the whole problem, it very easily becomes overwhelming. But if we break the problem down into its constituent parts, it becomes easier to understand what we might be able to do, both in our personal lives and in our professional lives. It would be impossible to solve the whole climate change problem in one go. And so we have to tackle it from different angles. And then by thinking clearly, we can make decisions that start to tackle bits of the problem. One of the analogies I use is of a bathtub and how that helps us think about the atmosphere and greenhouse gases that we're putting into the atmosphere. So everybody knows how to operate a bath, how if you block the drain and turn the taps on, the water level will rise, and that if you turn the taps off, then the water level will remain constant. And so that's a simplified representation of how we're putting greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So the level of climate change gets sort of locked in unless we are able to scale up those technologies to reduce or take out greenhouse gases from the atmosphere. As organizations, it can often feel like we're just a small part in what is a very large global system, and that's true, but every organization has a contribution to make in terms of the emissions that are resulting from the activities of that organization and how that organization can reduce its contribution to climate change. Having that information to then map onto the specific context of that organization and the activities of that organization that then inform the actions that are taken, that it's about accumulated greenhouse gas emissions, not just about annual emissions. There's been several instances where people have recognized that they might be part of the problem, or the organization that they work for is part of the problem, but they could also be part of the solution. So one example is somebody who worked for a large logistics company, recognizing that the activity of that company in moving stuff from A to B was driving emissions, but looking at how they moved things from A to B could drastically change the total emissions that resulted. So just changing the type of vehicle that was used, or shipping by rail or by boat rather than by air, can have such a drastic change. In the session, I tried to break down barriers using discussions, different analogies, different examples. It's very easy to say that, everything's too difficult and we can't do that because it's too expensive. But actually there are examples where organizations and companies have taken decisive action on climate change, and that's proved also to be profitable and beneficial for their business. So the one mindset shift I hope that people walk away from the session with is that if you have information and data and clear thinking, then we can start to break the problem down and start to tackle the problem. If we try and do it all at once, all at the same time, it's too big a problem to solve. But if we can start to think clearly about what the drivers of emissions are, we can start to tackle them, start to reduce emissions and take action.